so what we're gonna go is do a hip and knee mobility flow, opening up quads and hips as we go. This can be done as a standalone session, just to work on opening through the anterior chain, the front of your hips, or it can be done pre a squatting session, lunging session, something along those lines. So we'll start with some hip cars. So if you grab something to hold on to, we're gonna start, I'm gonna hold on my left, and I'm gonna stand on my left foot. We'll start with the right hip. So from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cross my leg over. I'm in external rotation. I'm gonna come as high as I can. From there, I'm gonna drop my ankle under my knee. Now I'm gonna open to the outside, keeping hips facing forward. I'm gonna pull my ankle up as I'm internally rotating, tracing the biggest circle with my knee possible. Now I land in extension, knees come back together. Without arching through my back, I'm gonna reverse. So I'm gonna push my ankle and my knee back. I feel hamstring and my glute. I'm gonna open high to the outside, drop the ankle as my knee comes high, externally rotate, lower. We'll go for one more. So I'm gonna stay externally rotated, pull as high as I can, ankle drops. I open to the outside. I'm gonna then internally rotate, trying to isolate the movement just from my hip, not letting anything else get involved. My spine doesn't move. I'm just isolating that hip. So what we'll do the same thing on the left side. So bracing on the right, I'm gonna cross as I externally rotate. I'm gonna pull high. Once I can't go any further, ankle drops underneath. I open to the outside, again, hips are forward. Ankle starts to pull high as I start to internally rotate, pulling back behind. From there, I'm gonna squeeze my butt, drive my knee back towards the wall behind me. Open to the outside. Keeping that hip where it is, I'm gonna drop the ankle as my knee comes high, pulls back in line with my hip, externally rotates and lowers. One more. Externally rotated, pull high. Ankle drops under, open to the outside, not letting anything other than that hip move, trying to drive and create the biggest circle with my knee possible. I let that relax, squeezing my hamstring and my butt as I go into extension. I then lift to the outside, drop the ankle, pull the knee high, sweep through, and come across. Now we'll go on to knees. So if you grab a seat, which we'll need here anyways, I'm gonna sit right on the edge. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a finger on either side of my knee. And from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull my foot so it's off the floor. I'm gonna hold basically my knee, so I'm isolating, my whole hip doesn't move. I'm just rotating my shin on my knee. So from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my toes to the outside. I'm gonna extend 2/3. I'm then gonna rotate in. Again, knee stays still, and I'm gonna bend the knee as much as I can. Now I'm gonna rotate toes back to the outside, extend 2/3, rotate across, bend all the way. Keeping toes in, I'm gonna now extend 2/3, turn the foot, again rotating my whole shin on outside, externally rotating, bend as much as I can. Keep the bend, toes rotate in, extend 2/3, re-rotate back out, and then bend back in, getting as much of a bend here as I can. Letting that relax. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So from here, I'm gonna lift so the foot comes off. I'm gonna externally rotate or spin my whole shin to the outside. I'll extend 2/3. Rotate in, so the whole shin rotates in, the knee doesn't move other than rotating side to side. Toes are in, I now rotate out, extend 2/3, rotate back in, and then fully bend at the knee, staying rotated in. I'm now gonna extend 2/3, externally rotate, going to the outside, fully bend at the knee, keeping that fully bent, rotate in, extend 2/3, rotate back out, and fully bend the knee and relax. So what we'll do now, the final piece for warming up our cars, is we're gonna do a little spine work. So we'll work segmental cat-cow. So if you come to hands and knees, what we're gonna do is we're first gonna find the position with our shoulders. So if I sink all the way to the ground fully retracted, I don't wanna be here, I don't wanna be totally protracted, I'm gonna find the middle and keep that. Now from here, I'm gonna completely round out the rest of my spine. So my chin is tucked, my hips are tucked under, and now I'm gonna start just at the basement of my tailbone, and I'm going to slowly start to turn that up towards the ceiling. And as if I'm slowly walking my fingers up your spine, you're very slowly going to move vertebrae by vertebrae as you slowly walk up your back, letting it arch each individual segment until I get to the base of the shoulders. My chest is dropping and my head and chin come up. Again, shoulders are doing minimal movement. Now I'm flexing everything on the top side of my back, feeling it work. Now, keeping my back arched, I'm going to go back to my tailbone, and from this position, I'm going to slowly start to roll just my tailbone under. Again, isolating each individual vertebrae. So it's basically one link unlocks the next, which unlocks the next, which unlocks the next. So I'm slowly beginning to round. I now feel my stomach doing the work, and then lastly my shoulders and my chin tuck. We'll go one more. Going from this fully rounded position back to my tailbone, I'm going to slowly start to move just the tailbone, just the very bottom of the lower back, through maybe the middle of the low back. Now getting into the middle part of my spine, that drops towards the floor. Each individual vertebrae as I get to the basement of the shoulders. My chest drops, my chest peels up, I squeeze everything on the back side of my body, trying to create the biggest arch or U shape in my spine. From here, going back to my tailbone, I'm going to slowly move just the very bottom of my tailbone. So I'm trying to stay arched through my upper back while I slowly move the lower portion of my back, the middle portion of my back, and then I get through the shoulders, and then lastly, the chin tucks, and I squeeze everything on my stomach. So here I feel stomach firing, and I just basically moved my spine through its fullest range of motion. So we prepped hips, knees, spine, everything that's going to be working here. We showed what range of motion we have. Now let's start to open up the anterior part of our hip. So how this is going to work is I'm going to have a bench, a chair, something that I can elevate my foot up onto. If you have something that you can hold, this might make it a little bit easier. And how this is going to work is I'm going to take and put my foot on top of the bench. I could also do this against the wall. And then from here, I'm going to drop my knee down so I'm onto a pad, and take a sec to get yourself feeling fairly comfortable because we're going to spend a little bit of time here. So now, in this position, I have my knee is under my hip. Now, the more my knee comes forward, the easier this is going to be, the less of a stretch. The more I slide back, the deeper the stretch is going to be. Now, from this position, what's going to happen is I'm going to want to create a huge arch, because what that's going to do is it's going to take it off the front of my hip. So, you may be here, you may be here. I'm going to find the end range of what I have. Once I'm in that position, I'm going to roll my hips under. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze my butt, hips tuck under, and you'll feel that immediately turn on. Now, if I have something here I can hold, I can put hands on hips, but I want to find a way where I can basically let this get a good stretch. And what we'll do is we'll hold here for a little bit, and then we're going to start to work on what's called tails and rails. So right now I'm going to talk, you're just going to maintain this stretch. So for tails and rails, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to push my foot through the bench. So basically I'm going to try to be pushing down this way as if I'm trying to straighten my leg. And that's the tails. And what that's going to do is that's going to help us create some more range of motion. Then I'm going to rails, and I'm going to teach myself that I own my new range of motion by taking that foot and trying to pull it off the bench. In this end range, it's not going to come off, but I'm trying to decrease how much weight is on that bench. So right now we're still just holding the stretch. And what we're going to do is we're going to start pushing into the bench as if I'm trying to straighten my leg and push my foot through the bench. So from here, I'm going to start pushing into the bench just 10%. So I feel just a tiny engagement. I'm going to slowly ramp to 20%. I'm going to slowly ramp to 30%. I'm going to slowly ramp to 40%. So I'm starting to push harder. I feel the quad beginning to work a little bit more. We'll go 50%. Let's go 60%. We'll go 70. We'll hold 70%. So I'm really starting to push, and we're going to hold that 70% contraction for about 10 seconds. So I'm really feeling that work. I'm feeling a deep stretch to the front of the quad. Maybe a little in the front of the hip, 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, relax, stop pushing, but stay in the position. Now, I'm gonna try to actively, using my mind, to pull my heel to my butt, and I'm gonna try to lift off the bench. I'm at too deep of a range, so it's not gonna come off, but what I'm gonna do is decrease how much pressure is on that bench. So I'm gonna start pulling up, and I'm gonna hold. I'm gonna feel that hamstring really start to work. I'm trying to bend my knee more, trying to get that heel right to my butt. Feeling that hamstring want to engage, we're gonna hold for 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, try to pull it off, 5, cramping does happen here, 3, 2, 1, relax. Stop trying to pull off, and then from there you might be able to sink your chest back, become more upright, roll your hips, get a little deeper of a stretch. So let's go for one more here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start pushing down into the bench, 10%. We'll go 20%. Let's go 30, doing well. Let's go 40. So I'm really starting to push, that quad's really starting to turn on. 50%. Let's get 60. 70. Let's get 80. And then let's go your greatest, safest contraction and hold that for 10. 9, 8, 7, push harder, come on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let that relax, stay in the position. Go the opposite direction, try to pull your heel to your butt, using your mind, trying to decrease how much pressure is into that bench with your foot, and we'll go for 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax, sink deeper into the stretch. And you can slowly ease out of that by dropping a hand, sliding your foot off the bench. Well done, team. So what we'll do is I want to do one more piece to help you own that new range of motion. So what I'm going to do here, the knee that was just on the pad is still going to be on the pad. Okay? What you're going to do here is you're going to grab your foot with your hand and pull it up into your butt. Now from here, what you're going to do is you're going to slowly let it go, and you're going to try to hold it in place where it is, holding for 10 seconds. So we'll do this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, slowly let go and try to hold. I'm trying to pull my heel to my butt. 8 seconds. 7, it might cramp, try to fight as long as you can. 4, 3, 2, 1, let that relax. If that does cramp, that's totally normal. What that means when it cramps is that it's right at the end range of what you can actively control, and that's basically how we know that we're starting to progress things forward. Not that we want you cramping, but I want you getting right to that edge and fighting through that as long as you can. So let's do the same thing on the other side. So how it's going to work here is I'm going to reset to the other side. Now I'm going to put the opposite leg down. So I'm going to put foot on the bench, drop my knee down, and then from here, I'm going to find it, and each side might be slightly different. You might have one side that's a little bit more movable, one side that's a little less so. And in this position, I'm going to be creating the same deal. So I'm going to get a little bit of a stretch first, as we did on the other side before we start doing our tails and rails. So take a sec to get yourself organized. Once you feel organized, I'm just going to hold this position. So I'm going to be up nice and tall. I'm going to roll my hips under. I'm going to squeeze my butt. And again, if this is too deep of a position, you may be forward more. Totally okay. You're basically finding a place where you feel the stretch in the front of that hip. Everybody's going to be different. Some people need to be back further and really tucked under. Wherever you feel it, that's where you're looking to stay. This should feel like you're working, but it shouldn't feel like you're, barely hanging on. Good, so we'll stay here for about another 30 seconds in this position. So I'm just taking steady breaths. A lot of times too, if I can take big belly breaths into the lower part of my abdomen, into my ribs, into my lower back, that's a signifier to my nervous system that I'm okay in this position, which therefore lets my nervous system relax. And that's what's going to allow me to then be able to do a little extra work, own a little bit more of this range of motion, and get a lot more out of what we're doing. So, now that we've had a little extra time to stay here, we're going to start our tails and rails. So, from here, I'm gonna start pushing my foot into the bench as if I'm trying to straighten my knee out. And I'm gonna start at 10%. I'll build to 20. I'm gonna build to 30. I'm slowly ramping up how hard I'm pushing in. 40. 50. And it might be the type of thing too in the beginning where you start pushing 10%, you go straight to 100. That's totally okay. As you do this more, you get more and more comfortable with understanding the ratios here. Now let's get 70%. We'll hold about 70%. So I'm pushing fairly hard. I feel the front of the hip starting to work, and you're gonna hold that for 10 seconds. 7 more seconds. Really good, team. 4, 3, 2, 1, relax, stop pushing, stay in the position. Now I'm gonna actively try to pull my heel to my butt, trying to decrease how much weight is on the bench. We're gonna go for 10 seconds, thinking about the belly of that hamstring. Here we go, trying to pull it up. 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7. If you're doing this right, you're really feeling your hamstring start to work as it actively tries to pull your heel into your butt. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Stay in the position. You should be able to sink a little bit deeper. So as we do the pails, the pushing into the bench, the rails, the trying to lift off the bench, that allows us to unlock more range of motion, which we can sink a little lower. So same deal. We'll go 1 more pails and rails. So I'm gonna start pushing into the bench, going 10%. I'll build to 20. I'm there gonna build to 30. Gonna build 40. I continue to build here. 50%. 60. Oh, this is good. Let's get 70. We'll go 80. So we'll call this our greatest, safest contraction. Really pushing. I'm trying to put a dent in this bench. I'm driving down as hard as I can. Here we go. 10 seconds. Pushing as hard as you can. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, push a little harder, 2, 1, let that relax. Final rails, I'm gonna try to pull my heel into my butt, and here we go. 10, 9, 8, really think about that hamstring. 5, 4, trying to go lighter and lighter and lighter on the bench. 3, 2, 1, let that relax, sink a little deeper into the stretch. And then you can slowly ease out of that, slide your foot off, come right out of that. Well done. So we'll do 1 more of those positions where we're gonna build the strength by pulling our heel to our butt, letting it fall off, and trying to hold it in place. And this neurologically helps you own your range of motion. So I'm in this position. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull into my heel into my butt. I'm gonna tuck my hips under, I'm gonna squeeze my butt. In 5 seconds, I'll slowly let my hand go and try to keep my foot right where it is. So from here, I'm gonna let go slowly in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm gonna hold for 10, 9, 8. I'm using my mind to try to pull my heel to my butt. There's 6, 5. Come on, guys, let's go. 3, 2, 1. Slowly let that lower. Again, cramping occasionally does happen. As it does, it's just right on the line of what you own for range of motion and what you are about to own as you continue to do this work. Well done, team. Should be good to go. Got the anterior part or the front of the hips ready for movement or just recovery. That way next time you roll in, feeling even more fresh. Well done, guys.